Jai Hind and welcome to Dev Talks. This is Aadi. A narrative war seems to be coming towards India. And that's something that we need to understand. We've gone through it in the last 2 years and before that as well. We are always reactive to the narratives. We need to understand what these narratives are, how they work, who's doing it, why, and how do we understand how to stop or counter them. To discuss that, as you can see, I have with me Lieutenant General Ravi Shankar. Sir, thank you so much. This is a off subject, but important subject.
Yeah, I agree. It's a narrative, it's a story, right? And the world is full of stories. All of us have grown up with stories. Stories have their flavor. Okay. And narratives help build uh, the story. They influence people's mind. And like you said, for some reason, we have not used it as a tool of national, security or policy or thing like that. So I thought let's discuss it. We can discuss. There are no question for answers. You have your views. I have my views. Let's put it across.
That's what, sir. I think I have my narrative, you have yours. Let's kind of see
Yeah,
where
yeah.
this
Everyone has
where
a
this leads.
narrative. Mm,
Absolutely. So the first thing I want to talk to you about is,
mm.
the narrative machine, and this is just an observation. I may be beginning probably in the middle of the discussion by asking this question, but still an observation that I wanted to start with is that it's become a little predictable. We know what the narratives are going to be. We know where they're going to come from, and we know how they're going to be shaped and by whom they're going to be propagated. So, is that going to be the similar formula? Because we've seen that happening again and again. And last time, was like a facepalm. This thing, yeah, come on, think about something new.
Well, I my view is that narrative comes out of a situation.
Uh-huh.
If there are two sides competing, conflicting, whatever you say, you can build a narrative out of that. Any one side can build a narrative out of that to propagate his side of the story. Okay, it is like advertising. Uh, Two chaps sell the same item. The guy who sells, who advertises better and gives the better advertisement, sells. वो है ना that old thing, मेरा सफेदी तुम्हारे से अच्छा है type.
Hmm.
So it's more like that. Um, that's my view. Yeah, you can chip in.
No, that's interesting, sir, because you're saying it's basically selling a particular story, sir.
Yeah, it's selling a story.
Now, the funny thing about narratives is that it's devoid of facts, but it is still bought.
Yeah, here a little different. I don't think they're fully devoid of facts.
It's a
All Yeah, half fact, half truth, and uh, the narrative probably starts from a fundamental truth. Half truth is built on it. Then the half truth goes into three-fourths truth. Then the three-fourths truth goes into 100% lie. And the original thing is lost sight of, and you have a new story going.
so
Yeah, that's how things happen.
exactly. Now, in the past 2 years, we saw the regular, if I may, criminals or not criminals, but the regular culprits. Okay, that's the word I wanted to use. Put out a certain narrative with regards the weakness of India. Let's start with the COVID part of it, and there were articles and written this thing and debates and this and that on how India will actually perform. A lot of the naysayers believed that no, yaar, ho gaya. After the second wave, a lot of us also was like, yeah, this was a little too bad. How are we going to go forward? But then as things kind of improved, we saw narrative taking a different twist that whatever India is doing, yeah, they're doing it, but they're doing it wrong. So it's basically a development of a certain narrative as time goes by.
Yeah,
How do you?
Yeah, I go with what you're saying. See, narratives take time to build, and they go with the story. They shape the story. And like I said, they always based on a particular event or a actual happening. So COVID was an happening, India was performing badly was happening, India performing good was happening. All these can be twisted around. Okay, I mean, look at the Chinese narrative.
Mm.
Okay, when COVID happened, okay, they were the seen to be the best. They locked down everything. Their vaccines were the best. They were going to lead the world out of COVID. That was the narrative, isn't it? We were all idiots. They came out with pictures of the fires in India. What some fire burning type. That it's a narrative they were built that India is a weak country, useless country, this, that, and all. Where is that now, and where is the Chinese state now? I mean, today only I read in the South China Morning Post that they in the Foxconn factory in Guangzhou, uh, there've been riots. People are not allowed to go out. They're being ill-treated. So riot police have come and beaten people up. They've had a clash with the workers there. That's not a narrative. That's a fact. What the Chinese built was a narrative that they could control COVID well. 2 years down the line, now there'll be another narrative which will come out. They'll say, no, no, it is not China at fault, but someone else at fault. So some of these people are good at building narratives, and narratives have become an instrument of state policy. So, well, you use it.
Is there an understanding within our state that narratives are an instrument of the state policy, sir?
I don't think so. I don't think so.
That's a problem.
I will put it this way: it's not a problem. It's not a. It's not a great thing either. Uh, the problem in the sense that uh, there is a problem. Let's accept it. We are not used to it. The Indian state is not used to propagating narratives. Okay. For some reason, the army also plays it straight, and we don't have a
Yeah.
narrative. We believe in that, truth has its own story to tell, which is right. Many times, the truth is its own story, right? And it punches a narrative very fast. But many times, the truth gets buried in this narrative, and many times, our truth gets buried, and we've been on the receiving end. For example, the atrocities in J&K on a daily basis is a narrative which Pakistan propagates on a daily basis. And we know there's nothing wrong in J&K today, where tourists are going, elections are trying to be held, X, Y, Z. So, you know, you don't have a narrative to say, look, this is happening. You don't have pictures coming out of this happening. You don't have a narrative built on your own truth. Narratives need not be negative. Narratives
Hmm.
can be made attractive by telling the truth. Okay. We are not able to do it. Yeah. News by nature, see, they say, no, what is good news? A, a dog biting a man is not good news. But a man biting a dog is good news. Okay. So narratives by nature become good news because, I mean, especially false narratives. थोड़ा उसमें तड़का होता है मसाला होता है but the truth has got no friends, so there are problems there. So but then the truth, if packaged well, can make its own narrative, but you need imagination to do it. That's my view. Yeah, you can weigh in.
Sir, I want to actually talk about. Okay, let me rephrase myself. Everybody says that ISPR has kind of been ahead of this game, and uh, there have been references to it. For example, Balakot was one reference where they came out with the story first, and then we had to kind of do whatever it needs to be done. And the situation came so that obviously because of the American things being involved, the Indian narrative is still questioned. I mean, if you look at the
Yeah,
Western
yeah, yeah.
circle, it is still questioned. So isn't that a lesson that, yeah, whatever said and done, I mean, we've been able to settle the anti Pakistan narrative pretty well. They're squeezed to the bone. no question about it. But
Again, I don't think there's a narrative bias against Pakistan because Pakistan is its own narrative.
okay, I mean, you don't
Okay,
need to do much with it.
you don't need to do narrative against Pakistan, right? Pakistan narrates its own story, and they narrate it better than us.
True.
Okay, so yeah, narratives are two-sided. You have to be a little careful as to how you build it. Like I said, if you build it over the truth and stick to don't lose the truth, and build it against negative sentiment which can be generated, you know, or tell people this is the truth. Yeah, what are you talking? Then it's fine. The narrative is damn good. But how many times can you convince that to people? Whereas a false narrative is easy to be sold because it strikes imagination, it is seductive, it's attractive.
It's
Like I
clickbaited.
said, it's that story of the dog and the man. The man
Mm.
biting the dog is always better story. Okay, it might not be believable, but it is better. That's the thing.
I mean,
Hey,
we get.
you had written something about the narratives. You tell me your views.
So my point was basically to understand the story of narratives. I mean, the reason that I wanted to write about it is because from the start of the Ukraine-Russia war, I mean, there've been times we've been named names, and this and that. Now, today the news comes out that the Britishers have been still buying the same oil that we are buying,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, that's a
but
narrative, isn't it?
yeah. Now, the point being that the Britishers have a narrative arm called the BBC. The Qataris have a narrative arm called the Al Jazeera. We don't.
Yeah, we need to have as simple as that. Look, from a media point of view, the Indian media is so huge and bright, and so many. But unfortunately, our media is divided amongst ourselves. So if you propagate a narrative through a particular channel, the other channel thrashes it. Okay. So if you want to build a narrative which is as an instrument of state policy, I think you have to give an edict to the media. Look, you can talk about this, but on this topic, it's a no go. And this is official. I am sure people will respond uh, positively to these things. Okay. And unless you are able to, I won't say control the media, unless you are able to put things together in the right perspective, you will have a problem.
So, how do you? I mean, okay, let me. Is this a basically the anti-India thing? Let's kind of break it down. What we see in front of us, sir. Today, I think, the biggest thing that we see is all this religious aspect of it. The second part we see. I mean, I don't want to get into the Hindutva and Khalistan. If you bracket it out, it's kind of religion. The second part that we see is about Kashmir, which is of course propagated by Pakistan. The third part we see is about a lot to do with the economy, where the growth kind of can be controlled. Every time there are figures coming out, you see certain individuals who come out and say certain things which are detrimental to the future. The point that I'm trying to come to is that you got these three big chunks which actually affect the entire stability of the nation, combined with defense that we actually get into for no rhyme or reason, and a lot of stuff is done. This is an open house, sir. So when you're saying that you need to put a thing with the media, you can probably say that to your own media. What about the?
Look, any media, you need to have a system by which you can, handle the media. Media will come to you, provided you're able to speak to them.
Mm.
See, you look at DGISPR, you look at the Chinese broadcasting systems, the CGTN and the Global Times. Everyone reads them, in India at least, and elsewhere, or the BBC. Okay, people read them, people listen to them, people see them. But in our case, uh, our media is not driven by someone. We don't have a media policy. We don't have a policy to put out narratives. Mind you, we have a fantastic machinery at our disposal in the form of the Information and Broadcasting Ministry, which has got tremendous expertise. They have tremendous footprint. The DD has got tremendous footprint. It is much more than all others put together. And it actually, if you see the DD programs and all, they got a lot of depth. They got more depth than all these commercial channels. But their viewership is low. The viewership is low because officially it is not patronized.
Mm.
If you have, say, an event has taken place and officially someone comes and comes only on DD, then people will see it. If a spokesman can come on the DD and speak and take questions and answer, then that will become the one to go to rather than NDTV or Republic or anyone. But the first thing which happens is those chaps get the cut, and your own DD does no one looks at it. So we need to have a policy, a media policy, and which by which you can propagate your own story. Okay, and then everything will go on. For example, in the Republic Day, uh, uh, everyone shows what the DD shows. Basically, the feed is taken from the DD. So why can't you do that for others also? That's one. The second thing is, if ISPR can do what it does, if the Chinese equivalent of that can do what it does, and if Al Jazeera or Qatar does what it wants, why can't our own, ADGPI, or for that matter, the Navy spokesman, or uh, the MOD spokesman, or the spokesman for the government of India come out with, news? Unless that happens, you're out of the equation. Hey,
That
I'll
is
call
one.
you a little way. Okay.
That is one. So the biggest factor that I look at is the susceptibility of a population. I mean,
Yeah.
if you look at Europe today, as far as the narrative this thing is concerned, so they've bought into this entire thing that we need to. I don't know if they've bought into it, but they've been kind of pushed into it, and there's starting to some resistance. But the past 6 months, the European population really believed that whatever's happening is for the good. But then the flashback as it's coming now is making people realize. So you can fool an entire population by just bombing them with something.
Yeah, you can. That's the
How
pity.
that's the pity. So, and in India today, with the reach of the internet going into the rural areas, which probably wasn't the case, let's say 5 to 6 years ago, the reach of these narratives will be much higher.
I agree with you. But for that, we need to have a system. You need to have a system. No, we don't have a system. We don't have a system at national. Look, you need a policy. You need to have the idea. You need to have expertise. We can develop expertise, right? Unless you develop expertise, you'll not be able to spin a narrative also. So there are various hues to this whole story. How do you handle all this? So we have to see. I mean, you have to have a narrative for many of our cases. The Just take the success of how we dealt with the pandemic and how we dealt with the virus and how China is doing. Just put this out and you'll see that they look like fools. You have a lot of plus points with us, and if you do not use your plus points and if you're not able to convey it properly, look, one way of looking at this whole thing is it's a narrative. The other way is just you convey your point of view.
Okay.
Like today, there's one on Twitter where the Pak army chief has said there are only 24,000 people in Pakistan. I sent you that clip. You know, right? He says there are only 24,000 army people in Pakistan,
in
and
East
it was
Pakistan.
in East Pakistan, when Bangladesh was formed, and it was a political failure, not a military failure. Can it get worse? And his list of assets came out. चलो लूट
Hmm.
रहा है पूरा देश को. Okay. And I saw another tweet where who are the six photographs of the new chiefs and who will become the chief. So someone not someone, Sandeep Punithan of TV9, he's put out कौन पड़ेगा अरबपति.
Hmm.
ये तो अरबपति है.
But this is what narrative is all about, sir.
Yeah, narrative is all. But this is not narrative. This is the truth. But you're just converting it into something which can be sold. So I my thing is यार ये अरबपति नहीं बनेगा. Who's the next? Just check कौन बनेगा अरबपति. You check from these pizza joints and all that. No, who's buying the next pizza chain in America, like Papa John's? So you will come to know who's the next chief. Okay. So yeah, so it's not a narrative which we really have to do. You have enough truth to talk of and be proud of.
It's a very different perspective, sir. I mean, when you talk about countering narratives, I think everybody will think about something that we should also create a spin of our own. For example,
Look,
we should create some spins and put it into Pakistan, create some
yeah,
spins and put it into China. But your perspective, what you're saying is you don't need to do that.
you don't
You
need
sell
to.
your story rather than
Yeah, you have look. No, there is no country and there's no system. There's no individual who doesn't have weaknesses. Okay, in our case, we have Pakistan, which is a bloody full weakness. Pura weakness of the highest order. Okay. You just tell the truth about them, and if you're able to convey the truth enough, okay. Even what's there to, you know, it's a, it could be a comedy every minute in Pakistan. Tell it to their own people.
there are countries who do that. There's no question about it.
Yeah,
What you're
there are
saying,
countries. Yeah,
there
you.
are countries who kind of stick to the truth no matter
Yeah,
what.
no. I have no problem, doubt that we should stick to the truth, but that doesn't mean you ignore other chaps' lies. Unravel that. You have to counter it, no? Otherwise, it will be a one-sided affair. You don't have to, daily beat your chest, but you need to have a sophisticated policy.
Okay. Now, sir, if I may, with no disrespect,
Yeah.
you're an analyst, maybe a, you know, but
Okay, whatever.
a studier, student, whatever. I
Yeah.
mean, uh, of geopolitics, as a matter of fact, what we talk about is geopolitics. Military and this and that is a part of geopolitics. It's the hard arm of geopolitics. We are India is heading through a patch where probably the rest of the world is down. India, we're growing up. We've got a lot of good stuff going for us right now, and we are also heading into an election year in the next 2 years. Keeping away the domestic politics of it, the how do you see what all would be the fault lines as if I ask you to predict that would be on the line during this time, sir?
See, India's fault lines, everyone knows it. You know, we have ethnic fault lines. We have religious fault lines. Okay. We have fault lines in our economy. Okay. We have fault lines in our resources, exploitation. Uh, you know, you have political fault lines. You have a whole lot. You have a huge anti-establishment society. You know,
Sarah.
setup. I won't say setup. A lot of people believe in the wrong ideologies. You have
Hmm.
ideological fault lines,
Yeah. Okay.
so people can exploit it. I mean, we are such a pluralistic nation, multicultural nation that between any one culture and the other, there will be a fault line, and you can exploit it. You can have economic fault lines. So I don't think we should shy away from our fault lines. How are you prepared to accept the fault lines? How are you prepared to strengthen the fault lines? How are you prepared to live with the fault lines? Is the question. Someone will exploit it through a narrative. You counter it with the your own story. Are we able to do that? That's the problem. Most of the time, we are not able to do it.
That's true.
Right. So that is the crux of the issue. We need to have a story to tell people. We need to do storytelling. And it is not as if we don't know storytelling. Our Mahabharatas and Ramayana is all stories. Panchatantra is all stories. We have our own comics. You have good stories to say, you have bad stories to say, but tell a story. Unless you are prepared to tell a story, there's no this thing. You don't tell stories. You tell news. You go in monosyllables.
Hmm.
So, and you base it on truth. There's nothing wrong with the truth. You don't have to be false like Pakistan and get found out. Okay. Yeah. Building a narrative around the truth is a little more difficult than building a narrative about around a lie, right? But it gives you better dividends in the long term.
Long term.
Okay. So play the long game. But you don't need a policy. You need a policy. Our problem says, oh, how can we build a narrative? We are a democratic country and our democracy doesn't permit it. Well, better.
The frustration that I see, sir, and even on our Dev Talks group, if you read, a lot of people and are pretty upset about the factor that, yeah, what is this? This is, it's an upsetting factor. When you know the reality is different, now you
Yeah,
have to tune
yeah,
your mind to, you know,
yeah, I agree with you because the other guy's narrative seems to be winning most of the time, and you seem to be on the losing side. It hurts your ego, it hurts your morale, everything. So we need to do it. On that, there's no doubt. I mean, I have no doubt in my mind that we need to, uh, you know, like, uh, uh, let me tell you, we are speaking about artillery and all that. Not many people know about it. Since people don't know about it, they think our artillery is weak.
mm,
Okay, or they when they see some funny gun on some truck or something somewhere, they think, oh, that's the best, and what we have is the worst. Or we don't have capabilities. We don't, you know our own capabilities. You don't know the ground on which you stand. Don't know your own reality. You don't know that you've spent a lot of time, you know, an effort in making certain things happen. Okay, but couple of discussions down the line, I think we are coming out in a manner where we people say, "Oh yeah, we are there." Okay, so that is something which we have to learn how to. I won't say sell ourselves. Tell our own story, our side of the story. We are not told it well.
would you want to tell our side of the story first or as a reactive?
Look, there's no harm in telling it first. There's no harm in being reactive. It is situation to situation. Many times you have to, before even an event occurring, you have to start a story. You prepare the ground. You prepare the battlefield in military terms. You do your recce. You get your feedback, and then you jump into the situation. You create hype. You create expectation, or you create that utsukta, as people say, curiosity.
That's interesting.
So it's not necessary that a narrative is only in a conflict situation. A narrative is also to convince people that look, what you're saying is the right thing. Even selling the truth is a narrative.
Now, see, that's where the okay. Let me. I'm going to be at the devil's advocate if you don't mind
Yeah,
this.
yeah.
Uh, we had a whole narrative about COVID in India and this and that, and we saw that on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all over the place. Yeah, India to bus ye wo na. When the vaccines were launched, right? Initially, we had a little hiccup and stuff like that, and then you saw the rates of vaccinations per day going up, 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 up. To a point in a day, we did 2 crores. Now, the entire narrative that was again still being sold by the West or by a lot of powers, if I may, not West or anybody in particular for that matter, was यार ये क्या हो रहा है? The vaccines are not good. They're not approved by WHO. But हम लोग लगाए जा रहे हैं. And India came out of this thing.
See, that's the point. The point is that,
We know how to sell it to our own people, sir.
that look, okay, here is the fact. The fact that 2 crore people started taking vaccines meant that people had belief in our system, or people had belief in our system, or people had the fundamental thing that what the government does for us on this is good. Why? Because for years we are conditioned that our vaccination system, the nation was one of the best. People had that fundamental belief. Others didn't know. How can those countries understand the scale and pace at which India does things? Okay. I mean, we were vaccinating one country a day compared to many. Okay. And we've done that for 75, 80 days, and the first dose ho gaya, second dose ho gaya, third dose ho gaya, sabko. Third dose free hai. And you look at the stupid country called China, they're still bloody in lockdowns and bloody jokers. They're still in, the vaccines are useless, everything. So if you see how China has handled their narrative, it's fallen flat. We have not handled a narrative, but we have gained strength. But if you had added a little to it, you would have been much more. We gave 80 to 90 countries our vaccines.
Hmm.
How many countries gave it? Not many people know about this. Have we done anything? They've got tremendous value, trust. Okay. And how you build a narrative? Is the narrative built by saying I gave it to 80 people or 80 people telling India gave it to me?
Hmm.
See how have it, that's the narrative. If I say that I gave vaccine to 80 people, it is not narrative. People will not believe me. But if 80 people say that look, India gave me vaccines, they'll say okay. Or even if 30 people say that India gave me vaccines, and then India says no, no, it's not only 30, we got another 50, then it becomes credible.
That's what happened in the UN this time.
Yeah. So how do you make this credibility go? That is a art of selling that whole story, narrative. How can you do it is up to you. But then you have someone has to think through it. You can't have a narrative for everything. You have to say which are those issues where I need a narrative.
That's overselling.
Yeah, if you go for everything, it's overselling. Then you become Pakistan. Okay. You sell your narrative where it counts on issues which matter, on principles based on a policy. Because narratives have a huge way of backfiring also. Okay, they could backfire very badly, right? And when they backfire on your face with no fallback. Okay.
We're going to see
So
an example of it very soon.
yeah, you saw the narrative with this Pak army chief was trying to sell 24,000 apps in on, right. So as per him, the
That is
93.
desperation.
Huh?
That is just desperation. It's not narrative. I
So
mean,
look,
I felt sorry for the guy. In no simple words. I mean, he didn't have anything else to give to the country, so he gave a silly speech and he's.
so there was a see when the CPEC came, the narrative was it will change the fortunes of Pakistan. It has changed the fortunes of Pakistan for the worse.
In the other way around.
On the other way around, अभी कोई बात नहीं करता उसका, है ना? So there are ways of putting it across. You need to have some thing. Yeah.
Interesting. So I have two more questions, and guys, two short questions. Guys, this is an interesting conversation, yeah. I mean, see, the reason I wanted to have this conversation is so that we get a thought going into our head. Now, if a lot of you might be thinking, yeah, why aren't they taking names? Because that's not the thing. You can take out one name, the name will change, the game will remain the same.
The game will change. The game also could change. See, it's a narrative story. Okay, it's a story. So anything can go. You can
And
change from one story to the other to the other. You can link. So but you have to be adept at it. That is the thing. Yeah.
no, and also, I think the people that are watching and people who are going to be watching the show, I'm sure are aware enough of that whole story which is there. What we are trying to understand is the symptoms and the disease itself. It's not so. I mean,
Yeah.
in
As per my narrative, the symptom is Pakistan, the disease is China. Okay.
absolutely,
Very,
absolutely,
very simple. As far as I am concerned as an Indian, if these two issues are sorted out, the rest of the narratives can take care of themselves.
indeed. See, I mean, fantastic. So, but there's one thing that I want to ask you is when a narrative is set up. I mean, okay, let me take this example of the again the Abhinandan incident that happened, right? The Abhinandan incident, till the time these idiots actually put out the videos of this chap, everybody thought, right?
Yeah.
Now, in the josh of putting out a certain narrative of victory, you have kind of stepped up. Anybody of a sense would have said, don't put out anything. Let's keep him for a couple of days. Let's see how the situation opens out, and then we will see. Keep the pressure up. But that didn't happen. So, in the josh of it, so what I'm trying to say is the arrogance of owning a narrative can also be detrimental.
See, let me put it this way. I'll equate, since you've taken this case of Pakistan, Abhinandan, and Balakot, and all that. It's my conviction that Pakistan is a first half nation. Let me explain. फुटबॉल में या कोई भी गेम में दो हाफ होते हैं.
Hmm.
पाकिस्तान always wins the first half and it loses the second half. Invariably. There is no time when Pakistan has won the second half and come out a victor.
Hmm.
Nowhere. Even in that Afghanistan withdrawal, US withdrawal from Afghanistan, they won the first half. The victory was in US going out of Afghanistan. Now they're suffering the second half. Okay. So similarly, I mean, why I'm talking of this is with a purpose. Everything has a first half and a second half. That Abhinandan thing, what they did it well in the first half and they lost the battle in the second half. Okay. So you have to be cognizant when you sell a story, when you give a narrative, you should not make an effort to win it in the first half. Of course, if you can win in the first and the second half, nothing like it. But if you cannot win the first half, at least win the second half. You have to win the game. It's not the event, it's not the day. So how do you do that?
Interjection. So, would you say remaining quiet to a large extent is an attempt towards winning a certain half?
At times, yes. There are times. Look, this is a game. So कभी डिफेंसिव होना चाहिए, कभी ऑफेंसिव होना चाहिए. At times you let it
Abhi?
pass. चुप
Superb.
रहो. So, that's what I said. You need expertise. I'm not an expert. I'm only talking to you out of what little I've
No, no,
experienced.
no.
And
Honestly, it's kind of lighting bulbs in my head. So,
okay, no, I let me tell you. Let me share an example personally. When I was a brigade commander, there was an incident in. I was in CI operations. There was this young company commander, lot of Josh, good guy. He, in one of the COBs, uh, he helped a young couple. I mean, young couple, a boy and a girl, right? Right. They eloped. And when they eloped, the whole blame came on this fellow, and
Oh,
he was branded a, kidnapper, rapist, and everything. All the rapes from 1947 to now, which happened in that area, came out on TV, and we and this poor boy, young major, he was shattered. So the commanding officer came to me. I was the brigade commander. So said, "Sir, क्या करें हम?" Oh, this boy, he didn't even know who these people were. He just gave them a little advice and sent them off. And he's being, associated with that Manorama Devi killing, ye, wo, and all that. ये तो घबरा गया बच्चा. I said, pull him out of the COB first, get him to the headquarters, send someone else. Then he said, sir, should we go on TV? Nothing. I said, do nothing. So we just issued a statement out saying that, look, this incident has come to light. We are going to conduct an inquiry, and the inquiry will be conducted by the district magistrate. And based on the outcome of that, whoever is at fault will be punished. If okay, so we just gave that one line, and we suffered the problem for the next 4 days. And then the inquiry went through. The inquiry exonerated this boy completely, this officer, but it didn't uh, solve the problem for us. But this girl was found 6 months, not 6 months, but 6 weeks later, somewhere else, right? And then we, even then, we didn't go to the media. You don't expose a young girl to the media and make her. After all, we're dealing with people. Whatever happened to my officer, it happens to that girl, and she's innocent after all. And they're two young people who are eloped, right? So we took them to the village, handed them over to the the parents in front of the
the elders.
village elders and all that, and uh, you know put this officer back in the TOB, right? And he was welcomed back, Badakana, ye wo, and all that. And then we spread the word through unofficial channels, through tribal area, the tribal network which is there, and things quite end. So you can handle this narrative in a different manner. It's not necessary that you go and give your own narrative and something is firing at you. You have to see how to handle all this business.
Timing.
Yeah, timing, and you go through a process. Now the end result was faith. The faith was that, look, the army here in this area will do the right thing. After that, I never had a problem for the rest of my tenure of an allegation against the army. People would
Hmm.
come and complain. That's a different thing. Sir, आपका आदमी ने ये कर दिया, वो कर दिया. Then one day the police chap in the the local SP said, "See, sir, what you're doing is something I've never seen. People don't come and complain against the army with the police, which was the normal norm earlier. People are complaining against the army to the army.
Trust in the army.
They say they
Yeah.
feel like so. The issue is ultimately I built a story.
Hmm.
I built a story ultimately, and the story was the army is trustworthy. It took me time. It took me about 3 4 months, and for the rest of my tenure, nearly 1.5 years there, I never had a problem with of this kind. And
See, that's a different way because
yeah,
a
yeah,
lot.
you have to use this.
आई थिंक गरम खून है ना सर सबका,
नहीं,
हम
वो ठीक है,
हिंदुस्तानी
it's
सारे
okay.
सारे थोड़े गुस्से वाले
You
लोग
know,
हैं।
we have to
गरम
play
खून।
play things cool. One shouldn't get to, you know, we
फेज
shouldn't
बाय।
be react. We shouldn't this thing. Well, even now, a lot of people write about artillery. ये करना चाहिए, वो करना चाहिए, वो करना चाहिए. अगर आप सबके सुनोगे तो कहाँ कुछ नहीं होगा. And of course, in a population of 1.3 billion, you'll have 1.3 billion views in India. So be it,
So
right?
silence is something why I want to ask you. That's our game.
See, it's not necessary our game. Unfortunately, silence is golden, but it's not golden always.
Always,
You have
absolutely.
to
I,
make you
next
have to
point.
make silence into gold. There are
Ah,
times when you have to convert this gold into real, polish it up so that it glitters. Right? Yeah. Any other questions?
no, sir. I want to go to what the guys have to say.
Yeah,
So,
let them say. Yeah, let them talk.
gentlemen, ladies, please watching, start pounding us with your questions. Very, very important. Before I get into those questions and comments, please do hit the like button, subscribe, check your bell icons for your notifications, and of course, yes, if you can, please do help out the Dev Talks efforts by your contributions, or you can actually just become a member. We have 22 members that have actually joined the Dev Talks group. So that's thank you, each one of you. I'm going to actually take this moment to take this congratulations for myself for
Thank.
6,000 subscribers.
Oh,
Thank you,
great.
Kapil.
Oh, that's a great thing, Adi. I'm congratulations from my side also that you hit the
All
6,000 mark.
lot of help from
Yeah.
your end, sir.
No, no, no. There's no help. You've done your bit, and right, and just keep it up. We need to be a credible channel,
Yes,
right? Devoid of hype. Like I said, our narrative should be the truth.
indeed,
Okay,
sir.
truth, balance, and no hype, no nonsense.
And I must say that we've kept it like that, sans the rhetoric, sans everything else,
No,
because these dialogues don't last for a long time. They create great TRPs.
yeah, yeah.
You
And
need trade of yourself, but
we,
then
yeah,
it
we
doesn't go
should
anywhere.
we should go on what is right, what is correct, even if it means that pointing our own mistakes out. We should know that when we look at the mirror, the image in front of us is a good image or a bad image, and correct it.
Indeed.
And we should be the mirror to people, right? And I'm glad you're doing it so well. I think just keep it up.
Thank you, sir. Our friend Mandar says white hazmat suits suited cops beating up Foxconn contract workers who realized they were being cheated and wanted to escape is not a narrative.
Yeah, I agree with you completely. The narrative was that China was winning the COVID war, which is unraveled. The truth is coming out. Actually, there's a story in this. There's a truism, and I mean, there's a fact in this which just comes out. Truth always wins.
Takes
Okay.
time, but it
It takes
does.
time. It does. So you have to be patient
Absolutely.
in getting to that. Yeah,
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's no question.
yeah. And a narrative based on truth is always better than what you know on falsehood.
Uh, I mean, it's amazing. I mean, that's something amazing. Thanks,
Hmm.
Gurmeet, for this super chat. Even I missed all the conversations because I just came back to a state to close to General, sir, but in Canada. We will change it because Jai Balwan, Jai Jawan.
Yeah, great.
Thanks so much, Gurmeet.
Yeah.
I mean,
Okay.
always
Thanks.
nice
Thanks
to
a lot, Gurmeet. Yeah.
contribution. Sir, Kamal says what we are witnessing is an assault on the vanguards of the enslaved India on the idea of Bharat. Even replacing these brown sahibs would take 20 years. How would we orient ourselves for these 20 years?
Look, I'll not go into this binary of Bharat and India. We are the same. They have a point of view. We have a point of view. I won't say we. They are not against us. One group
Same.
has a certain point of view, and another group has their point of view.
That's the beauty of India, sir. That's the
And we're
beauty of our country.
and we're changing. We're all changing. Okay, we are changing every minute. We are evolving as a nation, and ours is a nation which is quite complicated. I mean, we are a nation where every 20 kilometers a different language is spoken or a different dialect is spoken. If you go 20 kilometers, the diversity of ethnicity is huge. We are a nation which has so many religions to follow, and we have exported religions and imported religions. I think we are, fundamentally the Indian, right? I'm proud to say this. Is a person who has a lot of tolerance and who's perceptive enough to live with humanity. So let's have that thing. And
Yeah.
unless we exhibit this tolerance to the others, even if they're, say, don't have the same view as you, we will not grow as a nation. I mean, that's my view. Someone might say, oh, this fellow is secular. Okay, secular is not a bad word. This fellow is a Hindu. It's not a bad word. He's an Islamist. It's not a bad word. These typecasting and binaries are not good. Are we good Indians? Are we working to the same society? Are we working for the Constitution of India? Are we are we progressing? We are. Can we
It's
take everyone
always,
along? Can we take everyone along with us? We must. Will everyone come along with us? They won't. There will be people who will still say no to whatever we are doing. That's democracy for us. Okay. So Kamal, my thing to you is look look from
beyond.
something beyond. Okay. There's no us and them within India. We might have different views, but we are all Indian. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's something interesting, sir, because the first thing that all of us, I think, as a narrative needs to understand that we're all Indians.
Yeah, we are all Indians.
Bharatiya,
That's
if
the first narrative. I think we
we're
have
all
to.
Bharatiya, Hindustani, as and when.
What do you call it? We are the same.
I love the word Bharat. I mean, just the
Mhm.
word of it is so very
Yeah.
beautiful. All our names. Isn't media that comes under the national security domain, especially those funded by foreign entities? We have seen Al Jazeera and Global Time are champions of democracy, but they are hypocrisy.
Well, look, like I told you that India needs to have a proper media policy which is connected with security and the well-being of nations, of people and the nation. We are short, and that's one. But having said that, I don't want to be like Al Jazeera and Global Times, totally puppeted by the government there, and you just talk what the government wants to talk without any freedom of expression. And where people stop believing you. Okay, we have to strike the right balance. At the same time, I'm not against the fact that we have so many channels who speak so many languages and who speak so many views. It's okay. The strength of India is its diversity. The day we stop understanding this fundamental thing, that all of us shouldn't be, uh, we should all be progressing in the same directions, in the same direction towards the same goal. It's not necessary that we all go in the same pace with this on the same road. Our paths can be different, but our convergence should be there. So we'll leave it at that.
So I think that's the big problem, sir, because a lot of people, and in this comment, Kamal has, I
Mm.
think, given an update. He says all the anti-India articles in domestic and foreign media are written by Indians. That's where we are at. I think the
Yeah,
biggest,
I agree with him. There are a lot of people who are misguided amongst us for many reasons, for economic reasons, for reasons of fame, etc., where people write against your own system. But we are a democracy. If you can tolerate it and get over it, you come out stronger. You know, um, I leave it at that. Again, I have interacted with a lot of people who are anti-Indian and violently anti-Indian. After all, in the business I was in CI ops and all that, with different ideologies, and they were fully Indian. It didn't stop me from one day not considering them as Indian. They were Indian. They had different views. You tolerate them. You should have the power of converting them. If you think that everyone should think like you, they will not. If everyone thinks the same way and everyone is forced to think the same way, we'll end up as China. Do you want to be China? No. So tolerate. Tolerance is something which Mahatma Gandhi also taught us. I'm going back, a bit of philosophy, but we need to be tolerant. Okay. Yeah.
I'm sorry, my mic was on mute.
Mm.
Just saw China bribed a high-ranking Taiwanese officer to surrender when China invades. Narrative.
Yeah, it is a narrative, Srinivas. There's no doubt about it. China is full of narratives. You must understand. The communist mentality is full of narratives. They'll spin stories which don't exist. Okay. And they'll not agree to the fact that it's a narrative. So expect that. Their influence ops is a well oiled machinery. You should know how to counter it.
Short term. But today, one lesson that I've learned is, and with this discussion, I said a lot of light bulbs were lighting up, that they are short term. They want to
Yeah.
get that news headline. They're a TRP based, kind of.
See, eventually they will get found out. Okay. You have to again understand where Taiwan comes out stronger, it is a democracy. Where China comes out weak, it's autocracy. Okay. Uh, it's a dictatorship. I wouldn't even call it an autocracy. Today, China is a dictatorship by a one man dictator. Whatever he says goes, whatever he dictates has to happen. So his narratives will be different. You have to look through those stories. Yeah.
Sir, 24,000 brave Pakistani men against 2.5 lakh Indian army and 2.5
Yeah,
lakh.
we discussed this. We just said that negative. The Actually, this is not even a narrative. It is stupidity. भाई देखो इस पूरा कहानी में ये पाकिस्तानी आर्मी को नंगा खड़ा कर दिया. They are naked on the street today, Pakistani army. I mean, I just saw a Twitter thing where 6 photos of the next army chiefs, likely army chiefs, came out, and someone said, "Kaun banega Arabpati isme?" Okay. Uh, uh, this is a nation which has hung its prime ministers, assassinated people left, right, and center. Everything. It is exposed. There's nothing, right? All these fellows, the Pakistani army is in a state of discredit, and this fellow has gone and shot that discredited army again in the head by talking like this. I'm sure by tomorrow in the Indian media, he's given a narrative to the Indian media now, handed it on a plate. Thank him. We should thank him for this nonsense which is spoken. Okay, and this will be narrated. Let me tell you, this very statement by the stupid Pakistan army chief will be narrated for years to come. Yeah, your mic is on mute, Adi. Your mic is on mute.
Sorry,
हाँ.
बाजवा साहब ने बोला था.
हाँ, बाजवा साहब ने बोला था. बाजवा साहब वो अभी बेचारा, he will not have a place to hide also. Okay.
सर, पाकिस्तान में यही बड़ा अच्छा है. हाँ, कोई बोल देता है without any proof. I mean, some guy wearing a uniform or on some position without any proof, and that becomes history after that.
Yeah, it's history for him, whether he likes it or not. It's his history. He's narrated something, and he'll pay for it. They'll pay for it.
So, so
Look,
we just start.
didn't I tell you sometime we discussed sometime back? Just leave Pakistan alone; they'll destroy themselves. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to even spin a narrative. They'll give you the narrative which will kill them.
That's what
Uh,
yesterday me and
uh,
General Narayan were talking about the same thing. He said a similar thing. He said, "यार इनका क्या हो सकता है?" I mean, you wonder ये कर क्या रहे हैं? There
देख
is
यार, ये ऐसा कौम है जो है तो हिंदुस्तानी, जो यहाँ से गए हुए हैं, and but they think they're Turkic and Arabic and whatever they are, Persian or they're ready.
नहीं अभी तो चाइनीज है सर.
वो चाइनीज भी हो सकता है. ठीक है. ठीक है.
वो
So,
मंगोल चाइना से आए. I
हाँ,
don't.
वो मतलब they don't know what they are. वो, a chap who doesn't know what he is, he doesn't know he's living in a utter state of falsehood. for the past 70 years will speak like this only. Anyway, all the best to them.
Sir, I'm just going to run through some stuff and short comments if you don't mind. There are lots of
Yeah.
them, so I don't want to disappoint people, but I'll just do one per person because otherwise it'll just be
Yeah,
too
just
much.
we read through that and we'll not talk.
Yeah, short comments. Can we infiltrate into the minds of European and American minds, rig them at their own game? We are capable enough, or are we ready to shed our coloniality?
I think we are doing it. Leave it at that.
Jai Shankar,
People
how
have,
is that?
yeah, people have started realizing that there's more to India than what they think.
Yeah, that I agree with. No
Yeah.
question. TJ, India is glaring eco-religious social divides. Every government should be wary of excessive triumphalism in foreign affairs. Papering over divisive domestic issues will not work.
Yeah, I agree, but every government wants to be excessively triumphalistic because that's votes.
Not
That's
just here, every government in the
every
world will do.
government, every government in the world it does it. But let's not focus in the present only. If you go back in the past, other governments have also done it. Every government
The
does it.
Xi
So
Jinping, a dictator, he is
no,
still doing that in his country.
no,
So
you forget about Xi Jinping, forget about Pakistan. I'm talking about our own country.
everybody will
Every
do that.
politician will do. He'll sell his thing. वो अपना देख एक चीज है. Indian politicians are fantastic at narratives when it comes to winning their elections.
I wish they.
इसमें you cannot beat this fellow, the Indian politician. ठीक है? He is like a pakoda. He'll come up anywhere. ठीक है चलो.
Yes, our country gets too emotional on a single narrative on either side of the polls and gets extended too much. We need a problem-solving narratives which must be practical enough.
Yeah, I agree with him. I'll
That's a
leave it at
very,
that.
very nice
Yeah.
suggestion. Yes, I must say. I think that's a very big thing. Emotionality of anything becomes overpowers us. Best use of narrative, I think, was when Abhinandan was captured. They managed to deflate all the jubilation from day before.
Okay. चलो ठीक है. Yeah.
Some guys were tweeting that it would take us 15 years to vaccinate our population in the initial
Yeah, well,
phases.
I agree with you. This is action speaks better than words. I mean, most cases we acted, we didn't speak. Yeah,
I think was a very, very interesting this thing. Akshay, I don't know why you're not getting notifications. Yeah, just you know, check it out one time with your settings. Probably that is an issue. This is an interesting. Why is global media hate India? Why does the West or the global media hate India?
because if you progress, they have to regress. As simple as that. Their narrative is to show you as an idiot. So
So
we'll leave it at
the
that.
more you grow, the more you will.
Yeah, you will be exposed to scrutiny. Let's be very clear, right? Isn't USA the most discussed country in the world? Everyone discusses USA. They
Yeah,
don't mind it, so you shouldn't mind it. Let them discuss what they want. You have the confidence to go ahead the way you want.
interesting point. I must say that's the bottom line, guys.
Hmm.
To be honest, narratives are also beneficial. And that's why I'm putting this up. The amount of anti-India things that these other countries keep peddling, more and more people vote for nationalist politicians. It strengthens
Yeah,
us.
it's two ways. It's both ways. It's a way how you play it finally, right? And that's okay.
I mean, it's a interesting. Definitely, secularism is not a bad work if secularism is for all implies under the same constitution. Common sense here. There is no secularism in my view.
That's okay. That's I'm okay. We
To an
need to
extent,
respect every religion, every society. We need to respect people. You need to respect the other human being. If you are able to do it, call it secularism, non-secularism, whatever. I couldn't care a damn.
and all sides of the paradigm. So I think
Yeah, yeah. You should have a balance. Balance. Balance is important.
that's where I think the story is a bit
Mm.
off, and people do get upset about that
Yeah,
entire thing. Venki Saab, India's obsession with Western media's impression about itself and the fuel for West's content, a consistent anti-India narrative. Luckily, the establishment has realized and woken up
yeah,
to
I
understand.
agree with him. We shouldn't be bothered too much about what others say. You need to be bothered to the extent of taking a feedback and analyzing it, and beyond that, we should do what we are supposed to do. Things will come out well. That's my absolute, I'll give you a small example.
Sir.
2010 or 11, I read a news clip. It said India in search of an artillery and artillery in search of ammunition. Okay. Um, it was partly true, part narrative. 4 5 years, it spurred me to do something. Now today, we that is out. So many times these negative narratives will propel you to do the right thing. So take it. It gave me the feedback that look, we have to do something. It can't go on. So in the past 10 years, you've seen, where India couldn't procure a gun for 30 years, Bofors ke baad, you are now on the verge of procuring 4 or 5 guns. The race thing has started. No one
And you're
talks.
seeing it out also now.
Yeah, and you have enough ammunition. You have a lot of things. Okay, I can talk. We can talk of it separately.
We will do that firepower
Okay, I
thing,
will
sir.
do
Go on.
that. We'll do that. So there is a lot of value to these narratives. Even a negative feedback can spur you to do a lot of good things. So let's not, get upset about these things. Yeah,
Last last three, sir. Gurmeet sir, thank you so much once again. Do you think West hate India more? I don't know why. I think sir
I
is
don't think
answered. It's
that.
not hate,
Yeah,
but
many times the problem is with us in the way we behave also outside, right? Yeah.
another thing I take from what you said, sir, is, and allow me 30 seconds, is that when we look at narratives, I mean, we always look at it in a very, very, we brush it off saying, yaar, ye to bakwas hai.
Hmm.
Uh, I think that there also needs to be a place where you're trying to analyze, okay, is there any, even an ounce of truth in it?
That's why I said, no, you need to see the positive in the whole story and get the positive at the end of the day. You need to know how to turn the narrative around. That's where I leave it.
There is also, of course, as sir has said, that there is a requirement of a central communication agency, which is,
Yeah, that is
of course,
important. Structurally, we need to change.
yeah. And last question, Venki Saab, your question. Wonder how Bajwa's chap became COS. He inferred that the entire eastern flank of his erstwhile country had a military strength of just a division and a half.
Oh, yeah, that is Bewkufi. And if Bewkuf like that is heading is the chief of Pakistan army, I'm very happy. Look at it. Guys like him and Imran Khan are the best friends India has in Pakistan. They live in a make believe world. They live like that. Let them be there. हमें क्या लेना देना उससे?
Interesting, sir. I must say, without discussing anything in specific, we've had a very well-rounded discussion.
Thanks.
Uh,
I hope so. I hope
no,
we don't get reactions tomorrow on what we have
no, sir,
spoken.
that's
But
fine. See, let's get reactions. I think we'll
I
we'll
have
we'll,
no problem. No,
we'll
no, I
take.
have no problem. Right, I have no problem with that. It's good. But
But
I'm
then
very
three
clear.
questions. Yeah, yeah.
We have to
Three
be
questions.
centrist. We have to be balanced, and we have to bias or talk on truth.
We must also. I mean, I'm going to take this from what you said, that we must have the capability of being aggressive in terms of our narrative. It is not necessary to always use it. It is not necessary to respond to every little thing that comes out. You cannot do that because that's all you'll be doing. It is necessary to tell your story, and that your story should be based on the truth,
Yeah, I agree
right?
with you.
It is, so that, I think that is a beautiful structure. If I may, sir, we must, and I'd request you to write on this if you don't mind.
I will. I will. I will.
Beautiful
Okay.
structure for a strategic communication base for the country. I think that's an amazing brought out from the this thing. Venki Saab, thank you so much for the congratulations and your contribution. I hope we add another zero with all your help very soon. And I'm being a little ambitious, but I'd like to kind of think a little higher up in the air. But thank you so much, everybody, for joining. And this has been a very interesting episode, sir. Thank you so much for a broad based discussion. I think next time we'll come back. A lot of people, we always come back to artillery. So I guess
But we'll do
it,
that. We'll do that in
there's a lot of urge in you to give out information, and there's a lot of urge within the people to,
yeah, we'll do that.
hear this particular thing. Thank you so much, sir, for joining in. And till next time, Jai Hind,
Thank
sir.
you. Bye.